Welcome to HP Private Cloud Compute Services demo. After this demo session, you should have a basic knowledge about HP Private Cloud Compute Services, VM automation process, and chargeback and reporting functionality. Hi all, I am Rajeshwaran Jayaraman. I am going to provide a demo of our HP Private Cloud solution and a detailed explanation about the VM automation on the private cloud environment. This HP Private Compute Cloud solution provides an end-to-end cloud experience from self-service portal to automation of workloads, management and monitoring function, backup and chargeback functions. Private Compute Cloud solution integrates the following infrastructure and software components. The infrastructure components like server, storage and networks, and the software components are used in this solution are Active Directory, Hyper-V Future, then SQL 2008 SP2. This SQL is being used to host all the System Center components databases, and then System Center Virtual Machine Manager. This is used to manage the Hyper-V virtualization environment, and then System Center Operation Manager to manage and monitor the resources in the private cloud environment, and then SSP 2.0 is being used to do the automation of VMs, and then the System Center Data Protection Manager 2010 is being used for the backup purpose, and vKernel is used for chargeback functionality. This proposed solution of this private compute cloud solution have two Hyper-V clusters. One is called management Hyper-V cluster and another one is called host Hyper-V cluster. On this management Hyper-V cluster will host all the management VMs which are being used to control the private cloud environment. Like example, this SCVMM, SCOM, SCDPM, vKernel, and then SQL servers. So everything will be managed by this management Hyper-V cluster, and the host Hyper-V clusters will host all the production VMs which are used by the customers. On HP Private Compute Cloud solution, VM automation is achieved by the use of System Center Virtual Machine Manager 2008 R2 and the Self-Service Portal 2.0. Now I will show you what are all the preparations and settings we need to do on SCVMM and SSP 2.0 to do the VM automation. First, I will show you the console of System Center Virtual Machine Manager. So this is the console, and here what are the things we have to do? First we need to add the Hyper-V cluster into this SCVMM. So I added host cluster called HV3C into this SCVMM, and it has two nodes called HV3A and HV3B. On the host tab you will be able to see the status of those Hyper-V host machines. On the virtual machines tab we can able to see the list of virtual machines available on those Hyper-V machines and the status of those virtual machines. We can able to see that. And on the library tab we can able to see the list of virtual machine templates, virtual hard disks, and the software ISOs available on this library. Each System Center Virtual Machine Manager will have a default library. During the installation it will be created. It will be used by System Center Virtual Machine Manager. If we need additional libraries, we can create from this console. And on the jobs tab we can able to see the status of the jobs which is being executed or completed. Those updates will be able to see on the jobs tab. Through the administration tab we can able to configure the settings for this System Center Virtual Machine Manager, and we can able to integrate with the SCOM, everything, all the configuration we can able to do through the administration tab. So the basic things we have to do on SCVMM is configuring the library and creating the required virtual machine templates, and adding the required ISO images into this library, everything. This is the pre request to be completed on SCVMM. So once we done this job on SCVMM, we can go to Self-Service Portal 2.0. In this Self-Service Portal 2.0, we need to do the settings. On the settings page, these are all the configuration we have to complete before starting the VM automation. The first one is data center management. In this data center management page, we can configure the required hardwares like SAN devices, load balancers, and we can configure the networks, Active Directory domains, and also we can able to set the cost for chargeback and for resources like memory and storage. So all these things we can configure in this data center management by clicking into the configure data center resources. We can do that. The first thing is we need to mention the System Center Virtual Machine Manager server. So in our case, the System Center Virtual Machine Manager server is scvmm1.csv.host.local. So we have mentioned that. So once we mention these things, SSP will work together with Virtual Machine Manager to get all the information from that. And we have option to add devices to this self-service portal. Through the add device option, we can able to give the name for the device and connection string, and we can select the type of device, and we can able to add the device to the self-service portal. The next one is the network. We can add the record number of networks into self-service portal. Once we added, those networks will be used during the creation of during the VM creation. So it's already we added a new network with dynamic IP address. If we need additional networks, we can add it through this add network option. Here we have option to give the name for the network and IPv network name, and we can select type of networks, and address types also we have option to select dynamic and static. If you have the DHCP available in your environment, we can go for dynamic. Otherwise we can select the static, and we can provide the IP range for that. And also we can mention the subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server, everything. So already I have added a network, so I'm just leaving this option. The next one is Active Directory. And Active Directory we can able to add the record Active Directory domains to be available for this VMs, new VMs which are created on self-service portal. We can add additional domains if required by typing this domain name. And then the one is quota cost. Quota cost, here we can mention the cost for the resources like memory and storage. Once we mention this cost details here, it will be used by self-service portal to do the chargeback for those resources. And then the next option is to create the environments on this self-service portal. Depends upon our requirements, we can name the environment. Now I have created an environment called production environment and test environment, so we can make use of these environments during the VM creation. So this is the data center configuration. Once we done this, we can save and close. The next option is virtual machine templates. So here we can we have an option to import the VM templates from the System Center Virtual Machine Manager server. Already I have added these many virtual machine templates into this self-service portal. If you want additional virtual machine templates to be added, we can click on to this import template. And then we need to mention the virtual machine manager library server name. We have the server available, SCVMM1, and we need to mention the library share name. Once we select it, the search will give the list of virtual machine templates available on this virtual machine manager server. We can select whichever the templates we need on this self-service portal. Once we select, those virtual machine templates will be available on self-service portal. So already I had all the things, so I'm just leaving this page. So once this virtual machine template is completed, we can go for virtual machine actions. By default, there is a master action XML is available on SSP, which includes a list of virtual machine actions, set of virtual machine actions. If we need additional actions or additional things to be added to the existing one, we can take a copy of this master action XML and we can customize those scripts based on our requirements. So here I have created another script for a use of Linux machine. Like that, we can create a custom copy and we can do the edit, or we can modify the scripts on those things. So once we click on edit, we have these many options available on each VMs, like create, deploy, delete, start, resume, stop, shutdown, pause, and store. So if you want to change any of the actions on this, if you want to change or if you want to add additional items into this, you can select that particular action and you will be able to modify those actions by clicking onto the edit or remove option. You have three options available for modifying the scripts. We can modify through VB script, Windows PowerShell, and CMD script. So all these three options will be able to modify the scripts based on our requirements. So I'm just leaving the default thing and cancelling this. So once we complete this thing, virtual machine actions, we can go for global settings. On global settings page, we have option to change the refresh time interval for SSP 2.0, and we have option to change the operation mode of this self-service portal. We have two modes available. One is normal mode, another one is the maintenance mode. On maintenance mode, system will not accept any more requests from the we will not process the request from the users. Only it will process the existing request. So whenever during the emergency times, we can change the mode based on the requirement. And then the script manager timeout interval, it's used for the while running the script. We can give the timeout period. So we can mention the timeout period based on your requirements. So these are the basic settings we have to configure on self-service portal 2.0. Once we done these settings, on the user roles tab, we can able to configure provide the permissions to the users. There are 4 type of permissions available on this self-service portal. One is the data center IT administrator, and another one is the business unit ID admin, and third one is the advanced operator and business unit user. So based on the requirement for the user, we can add the user to the appropriate list. So this is the thing. So once we done, this is the settings. Once we done this, we can go ahead and create the business unit first. So as a first step, we need to register a new business unit. Clicking at register new business unit, and we can give the name for this business unit. I'm giving the name as business unit 5, and we can mention the code for this. We can select the priority based on the urgence, and we can mention. And we can add the administrator for this business unit who can able to manage these business units. It's already added. If you want to add additional, we can add by giving comma, and it will accept only the Active Directory users. So if the user is not available in Active Directory, it will throw an error. So I'm clicking submit. So this request, new business unit creation request, is completed. So now the data center administrator can review the request and he can approve this. If you go to the request tab, you can see a onboarding request is being created by CSE/Rajesh account, and data center administrator can review this business unit request, and he will be able to approve this request. So once this request is approved, Once this is approved, that business unit will be available on the scroll down list. So now users can able to raise an infrastructure request under this business unit. Now you can see option create new infrastructure request option is available. So once the business unit is created, now we can create a new infrastructure request. We can give the name for this infrastructure. And as usual, the priority we can mention. And the expected decommission date we can mention. This is it's not an automatic decommission. So this is the information to the data center administrator to plan for the resources. So it won't delete or decommission the infrastructure after the particular period. So this is just for just an information to the data center administrator, and we can give the business justification form. And here we need to, while creating a new infrastructure request, we need to give the capacity. We need to mention the capacity for this infrastructure, because how much of memory and storage is required for this infrastructure, that we need to provide. I'm providing is 5 GB of memory and 100 GB of storage. Also we can mention the additional informations, like if you want to any additional information that to be added to this infrastructure, those things we can add. And also we can provide the information in the attachment, like Visio or document or Excel files. Also if you have any things, we can attach into this list. Clicking next. Once we provide the infrastructure name, now we need to mention the service and service roles which are going to be used on this infrastructure. So for service, I'm providing as MS Exchange. Now we need to choose on which environment we need this service. Already we created these 3 environments on the first data center administration page. Now I'm going to use the test environment for this. And also we can provide the description. Billing code we need to mention. Region or data center we can mention. Now for this service also we can able to mention the quota for this service. I'm mentioning 2 GB and 50 GB of memory. So for service also we have option to mention the quota. Once we mention that, now we need to assign the networks to this service. Now also we have option to request the new networks. So if you request, administrator can review and we will be able to add the things. And then for this service we can add the users who are going to be the advanced operators and who are going to be business unit users. So those things we can add here. If we need any rapid provisioning options, we can select this option and we can give justification. What are the things we have to do, any additional things to be covered, everything we can provide those informations here. So once we provide the service information, then we need to mention the service role. By clicking onto the service role, we need to provide the service role name. So on MS Exchange, now I need a service role of mailbox server. So I'm giving the name as mailbox server 1. And adding the network to those service role. If we need a load balancing option, we can select these options and we can give the justification for this. If everything is completed, we can save and close. Once we've done all this service and service role configuration, we can click next. Now we need to choose which virtual machine templates to be available on this infrastructure and for the service roles. So we have a list of virtual machine templates available on this SSP. Whichever the templates we need, we can select from here. So I selected MS Exchange. So I may need Windows 2008 R2. So I'm selecting Windows 2008 R2 and Windows 7 for the client machines. So I'm selecting these two templates for this infrastructure. Once we select, we can click next. In this information, it will give you a summary of information which we selected. It will give the information, service related information, service role, everything. So once we can review and we can able to submit the request. Once this request is submitted, data center administrator can view the request on this request tab. This infrastructure service request is created by this user and it's in the submitted status. Now before approving this infrastructure service request, data center administrator has to review all these service role and virtual machine templates. Then only you'll be able to approve that. So the first option is reviewing the service. This is the request. Now data center administrator can review this information and also he can able to mention the Hyper-V host, which Hyper-V host this infrastructure can use. Those things he can mention, and any other things if you want to modify, like another template location, which template library he can use. Those things he can mention. Once the library server and library share is selected, and then we need to mention the virtual machine location where it need to be stored. So now also data center administrator has an option to change the advanced operators list and business unit users. You can review the users and you can give the permission appropriately, and also have an option to change the network and everything. So once you review, you can click save and close. Then we need to review the service role. If load balancer is required, the data center administrator can configure this load balancing option and we can give. And if any customization is required on the script, we can able to do the customization by clicking onto this customized option. So once this is completed, then he has to review the virtual machine templates and approve. There are two templates selected for this infrastructure. So now data center administrator can review this, and if anything to be changed, you can change and you can save it. So once the review is completed, now data center administrator can approve this new infrastructure request. Once the infrastructure request is approved, now that infrastructure will be available under the business unit file. We can able to view this infrastructure, messaging infrastructure. Now users can able to, now the business unit infrastructure and quota, so memory and storage quota for those infrastructures are already created. So now users can able to log into the self-service portal and can able to raise the new VM request for this. To create a new virtual machine request, users no need to log into the SCVMM or SSP 2.0 servers every time. they can able to connect to the self-service portal from their workstation itself. So they need is just an SSP 2.0 URL and the record permissions to create a VM under the appropriate business units. So they can use their web browsers to connect to the self-service portal. In our case, the URL for self-service portal is http://scvmm1. Once they log in, they can able to provide the credentials. And can able to log into the self-service portal. So now they have option to select the required business unit and the required infrastructure. Then they have option to create new virtual machine. Here also they can modify the required business unit, and under the business unit they can able to select the infrastructure. Under the infrastructure they can avail any of the service which is available, and also they have option to choose the service roles. Once all this selected, now they have two options. If they need a multiple machines, they can choose this option with a single name and sequential number, and they can provide the how many number of machines they need, and they can give a starting name and then give a suffix start, so they can create multiple machines with these names. In case they need a single machine, they can choose this option and they can able to provide the machine name. Now I'm providing the machine name as MBX server 2, and also they have option to select the which template they need. Once they selected the templates, they can choose the network, required network, and they can also choose the domain on which this VM to be added, and also they can have an option to mention what kind of maintenance activities to be done on that VMs, like what kind of patches to be updated and what settings to be done. Those inputs can inform to data center administrator. Once they provide all these things, they can submit, they can create this request. So this VM creation request don't need any approvals, because already for the infrastructure and business unit we already provided the quota. So under that quota they can create any number of VMs, so no need for approval. Once the user created the virtual machine request, they can able to see the status of that request. They can able to see the status of request from this self-service portal. They can monitor the progress here. Data center administrator can able to monitor the progress from the SCVMM also. So once this job is initiated, data center administrator can be able to view the job from the SCVMM. So now the new virtual machine creation job is started, and it's showing the progress of that job. Once the job is completed, we can able to see the VM created on the self-service portal. So the server will be created and will be available on self-service portal, and users can able to connect through the remote desktop option. Users can connect this newly created VM from the self-service portal itself using the remote desktop option. So they can able to open the remote desktop console through the browser. They can also avail, they can connect to the virtual machine through the remote desktop also from their machines. So now it's connected with the remote desktop. The VM which we created is connected now. We can able to log into that. So this is how the VM automation works in our private cloud lab with the help of SCVMM and SSP 2.0. Next one is the chargeback and reporting functionality. In our private compute cloud solution, we are to do the chargeback and reporting for virtual machines, storage and memory. We are using a third-party application called vKernel. vKernel is available as two components. One is called vKernel appliance, and another tool is called vKernel Hyper-V collector. This vKernel virtual appliance is a Linux-based VM, and it cannot directly integrate with the Hyper-V environment to collect those information. So it uses the vKernel Hyper-V collector tool to collect those Hyper-V related informations, and then this tool will write those information into a separate vKernel SQL database. Once it is done, this vKernel appliance will do the chargeback on all those data and will give the report to us. Also, we have option to integrate the self-service portal directly to the vKernel appliance. Now I will show you how to configure these vKernel applications to do the chargeback and reporting functionality on private compute cloud solution. First, this vKernel appliance is available as a VHD format, and then we have Hyper-V collector tool, which is in MSI installer format. First, we need to create a VM on our Hyper-V environment, and then on that VM we can configure those pre-configured VHDs. Then we need to create a legacy network adapter for that VM. Once we configure all these things, we can switch on that VM. While we switch on the VM for the first time, it will ask us to configure the network type. So once we select the network type, whether it's a DHCP or static IP, it will get the IP address, and then it will be ready to use. So we can able to manage this virtual appliance through any of the browser. We can use this address to connect to the browser. So this is our URL of our vKernel appliance. I'm connecting to that vKernel page. Once we log into the vKernel page, all we have to do is first we need to create a vKernel database. To create a vKernel database, we need to go to the database settings, and then we need to provide the SQL server address, and then authentication method, and the proper credentials to create a SQL database. So once we provide all these informations, it will create a database name called CB_vKernel database automatically. If we have the database created already, we can now discover the database and we can choose that database. So once this steps is completed, we will be having the vKernel database ready. Then we can configure the chargeback cost for all the resources from the options tab. We can select the rates tab and we can give the price for all the resources. So this price will be used to do the chargeback on all the Hyper-V related resources. Then to do the self-service portal integration, we can add the connection to self-service portal database by clicking on to manage database. Already added a connection. If you want to add another connection, we can click on to add, and we can mention the SQL server name, username and password, and the SSP database name. So once we provide all these informations, it will create a connection with the self-service portal database and collect all those informations, and those informations will be available through this vKernel page. Then the next step is we need to install a vKernel Hyper-V collector tool on any one of the Windows machine. and then we need to configure all these settings. We need to provide the service account name to run this vKernel Hyper-V Collector service. Then on the database tab, we need to mention the SQL server name and the vKernel database which we created in the last page. We need to provide those informations, and then we need to provide the credentials to access the SQL database. Then finally we need to create a connection with the System Center Operation Manager server. To create that connection, we need to mention the System Center Operation Manager server name, and then username and password to access those machines, and then domain name. So once we provide these informations, it will create a connection with the System Center Operation Manager and start collecting the Hyper-V related informations, and then it will write those information into the database which we mentioned, the vKernel database. It will write all those information into this database. So once this synchronization is completed, we can able to see the Hyper-V architecture from the vKernel page. So once the synchronization is completed, we can able to see the synchronization state of the state. So it's already okay, the connection state is okay. So we can able to view the Hyper-V architecture from the vKernel page. It will show you the full architecture and the Hyper-V host and the VMs available on those Hyper-V host. Everything will be visible from the vKernel page. We can create custom groups in vKernel to add the required VMs into that group. While during the creation of custom group, we can provide the name for the custom group, and we can select the type of resources. From there we can choose the required VMs to this group. So once it is completed, also we have option to modify the chargeback rates for all those resources for this particular group. If you need to modify, we can modify, and then we can save this. Once it is done, it will create another custom group with the selected VMs here. So once this is done, we can create a customers group based on our requirement, and then we can add the groups to the customers list. So customer 2 group is created, and then we can associate the groups which we created into those customers. Once it is added, those VMs will be assigned to those customers. Then once we added the custom groups under the customers, we can able to do the chargeback report, generate the chargeback report for those customers, and also we have option to select the time period for the chargeback report. So once we selected that, it will provide the report with for the selected dates. So now this is the report for the 1 week report, and it provides the chargeback cost for all the resources for those groups, machines which are under the group 2, and it's provide the total cost, allocation cost, and total usage cost. So this is the way it's doing the chargeback and reporting for the Hyper-V environment. So it's all about the private cloud compute demo. Thanks. Thank you.